We are recording. Okay, gang. So continuing along, remember, make sure you dig in and do the homework that you need to do each step of the way. Make the time, schedule it. That pre-list package will be really powerful with your interview process. So do we have any questions on any of our prior sessions as we go along? Anyone? Okay, again, the sessions, you don't need to have them in succession. You just need to get some takeaways. And also keep in mind, ultimately, everything we do is to be interpreted and to be presented in your own personality. It's so critical that you realize that, yes, I'm giving you details that will help you working with sellers. And again, we're going through all of the components of that. However, it's really important that you take this, make it your own. Remember, this is a people business, and the clients and the consumers are hiring you, right? So you're not here to memorize the things that I'm saying. You're here to internalize the things that I'm saying so that you can present that to your client and it's coming from you. The client is hiring you. They're not hiring your systems. Sure, they're hiring you because of your systems, but they're hiring you. So that is the one thing, like we said, that is the one thing that you can provide that nobody else can, and that's yourself. Okay? So I will be watching for hands raised as we go. So if I'm glancing away, it's not because I'm losing focus. It's because I'm making sure we've got all your questions down. So with that, we're going to dig in. Okay? And ultimately, right now, we are looking at the interview itself, the interview process itself. So as we go along, I want to make sure I jotted some notes down. I want to make sure that I hit on all of the details that we need to consider when looking at the interview. So you know, we talked about sending a resume package prior to. You can either send it, you can have somebody courier it, you can drop it off yourself. They have a sense now of who you are, okay? So again, before you walk in the door, you're coming into their private space, so you wanna make sure that ultimately they feel comfortable with you coming into their home, okay? So ultimately, bear with me as I juggle our technology. So you want to know your scripts, and I'll always say know your scripts, but really once you internalize them, they become dialogue. Okay, scripts are things that you memorize and you try and say, and when you're trying to remember what you're going to say, you're missing what they're actually saying. So you're ending up talking at them, not with them. So scripts should be internalized rather than memorized, and they now become your dialogues. So focus on that, because it doesn't matter how you say something. It's just about getting the point out there that you're trying to make, okay? You also need to know your market. Okay, when you go in for a seller interview, you need to have a sense of what's going on. Now, you may be going in not planning to do a market analysis on that first step interview, okay? Because you can do a one step where you're doing everything all at once, or you can go for a follow-up where you've done some research on the market and the value, and you go back to discuss the value. Either way, the way you're going to do it, you still need to go in with some knowledge. So before you walk in that door on that first step, make sure you've pulled up the house. What's the history of that house? Has it been on the market recently? Okay, don't assume they didn't have it on the market with somebody else before they called you, just because it's not in our MLS currently. What's the history of the street? What's the history of the neighborhood? Yeah, we can expand it to beyond looking at the town and what have you, and you need to have a general idea of what's going on in the town. You know, it's not like you have to go in there with stats and figures and all of this stuff, but have a general sense. Have a general sense of what's on the market. You know, if you have a general range of value for that property, how many homes are on the market in that value range? Right now, with the inventory being so low throughout the state, you know, how low is it in that neighborhood? Is that the only house in the neighborhood? That will create one reaction. Are there other homes on the market in that neighborhood? That will change that reaction when you list it. So what is happening in that neighborhood, that area, that town? Have a general sense. the seller will be asking you questions. You don't want to say, well, you know, I saved that information. I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about that at our next appointment. You know, they want to know that you know the area, okay? So have a general sense of it as you go in. Okay, so also you want to be looking at the fact that you're going to be building rapport with your client. Okay, so take the time to get to know them. Now, when we talk about the actual interview, you're walking in, you have to envision this. You're walking in to get to know them. Okay, these are the steps you're taking to get to know them. If you don't get to know them, then you're not learning what their goals are. And as I've always said, if all you do is sell the house and you haven't accomplished their goal, then you haven't done your job. So your goal is to get to know them. So there are a couple of ways that we can build rapport. If anybody's heard of the DISC profiling, D-I-S-C, okay? So the DISC profiling, you can go to tonyrobbins.com//DISC, and there are free personality evaluations. Now, the DISC profile, the D-I-S-C, each stands for a specific personality type. The D being a very direct personality. Somebody who's just going to say it like it is. They're not going to worry about how it's going to be received. They're just going to be very direct and to the point. That's not bad. It's just a methodology of communication. The I is the influencer. It's this very social person. The person that likes to be talking to people, be very social. They like to be the center of the room. When they walk into a room, they want to know everybody. And if they don't know everybody, by the time they leave, they do. You know, it's a very social person. Somebody who likes to be very interactive, very social with folks. The S is a very steady personality. It's someone who is very family oriented. They don't like a lot of change. They like to know that everybody's getting along, that there's comfort in the entire setting. And the C is very correct. It's a very detail-oriented person, somebody who loves paperwork, if you can believe it, somebody who loves paperwork, who wants more paperwork. Give me the file, let me organize the file, let me organize the files that the files are in, and let me organize the room that the files are in, and somebody who really wants to make sure that they have everything in order. An accountant would be a very high C personality. Administrative role, very high C personality. Tara, I see your hand raised. Go ahead. Tara, are you unmuted?
I'm trying. Okay. So I just wanted to add quickly that you can take the test for free, and it's always good to know, what you are. And then you can go on and pay for the rest of the results, but you don't have to pay for the test.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Yes, it is a free test. You can expand and do more. And to Tara's point, thank you for that clarification, because understanding the DISC profile also helps you understand your own. Who are you inherently? Again, none of it is wrong. It's understanding who you are, but even more importantly, how to communicate with those personality types. If you have a very direct personality, they're not going to want to hear you talking about all of this stuff that has nothing to do with anything. They're not going to want to hear what you think about the weather outside. They're not going to want to hear about your stories of past clients and how other people did it. They just want to know what the bottom line is. So you're going to get to know what these personalities, literally, true story. I had a seller interview with a high D personality. As I was presenting my market analysis, I was flipping through the pages. Literally, he, in the middle of it, stopped and actually flipped through the pages while I was talking, almost like saying, there's an end in sight, isn't there? Now everybody knows I can talk. I'm a talker. I'm a high I, okay? I'm a high I trailing C. So I have the most conflicting personality out there. My high I doesn't care about details and just wants to be social. My high C cares about details and is cleaning up after my I every day, every moment. So I have an inner struggle every day with my personality style. And if you don't understand people's personality styles, you won't be able to navigate it, because people want to work with people they can communicate with. They're not going to adapt, and they're not going to relate to you if they can't connect. Okay. The other way to build rapport is through the Ford technique. Okay. F-O-R-D. Okay. Has anybody heard the Ford technique? Raise your hand. Okay, so Ford, F, family. People want to talk about their family. Dean, raise your hand. Go ahead.
Ford, F is family, O is occupation, D is dreams, and R is I don't remember.
Think fun.
Fun?
Fun.
Oh,
Recreation.
Recreation.
Yeah, well done, well done. You know, it's tough to remember the actual word for it, but we get the point of it. So thank you for sharing. So family, ask them about their family. Occupation, what do you do for a living? They know what you do for a living. Recreation, what do you do for fun when you're out, when you're not working? What do you do for fun? You may find that you have commonality in recreation that you will relate to, and they'll hire you because of it. Dreams, what are your dreams? What's your big picture? Where are you heading? What are your goals? What does this move have to do with those dreams? You know, how can I help you reach those dreams? Okay, so these are ways that you go about building rapport. Understand the personality style, and also take the time to ask them about themselves. That's what they want to talk about. Remember, people love to talk about themselves more than anything. Okay, so get them to talk. You could literally have a conversation with someone where you're saying very, very little, and they walk away saying, wow, he really knew what he was talking about. And all you did was nod and smile, you know, because they got the feeling that you agreed with them. Okay, so you want to be looking at ways to empathize with folks. You want to be looking at things, you know, I can only imagine how important that would be to your family. You know, you want to be reinforcing any decision that they make. You know, this is not an easy decision. It's not an easy decision to move. The thought of moving is daunting. It's overwhelming. So you want to be able to empathize with them, support their decision, and also, you know, offer encouragement. You need to be encouraging them in everything that they do. They want to know that you have their back. Make sense? Yeah, you've got their back. So now we look at this and we say, okay, well, when we're asking questions, Allison, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Right. Two things.
You got some feedback. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
Two things. What was the website thing for the Tony Robbins? And what was the C for the disc?
You bet. TonyRobbins.com/disc. And the C is correctness. It's all about detail. It's a detail-oriented person. Okay? All right, great. Super, thanks. So ultimately, when you're consulting with them, you're taking notes. Taking notes shows that you care. Okay, so even if you think you're going to remember it, I guarantee you at some point you're not going to remember it, because you're going to be so darn busy meeting with so many sellers that you can't remember the details between them. And if you can't remember what you discussed, then that's going to be problematic. It can be as simple as what their family's names are, what their pets' names are. When I'm talking to people and something comes up, I will actually write between my notes things I want to remember. You know, now when they mention their dog's name, don't, you know, directly take your pen and write down Rover on your notebook. But as you're talking, you want to remember Rover's name, and you know, as you're talking about other things, just slip it in between your notes somewhere, so that when things come up, or the next time you come over and Rover comes up to you, you can say, hey Rover, how are you? You're connecting on a certain level. Their kids' names, what, you know, write those in between your notes. They don't need to see that you're writing it down, okay? But they feel that you're remembering the details, okay? Very important that you have details on that, okay? True story. I share the stories a lot because they matter, okay? One of my very good friends, she's a dental hygienist, okay? In her business, she has to talk a lot because her job is to keep people calm while she's cleaning their teeth and preparing for the exams, okay? So she's not really speaking with someone, she truly is speaking at someone, but she does let you take a breath every now and then to answer her questions. So all you have to do, you can't even nod in some cases, all right? But what she does is when people can take a breath and they say what they're doing, or when they're coming in and they're talking, if somebody's mentioning a family vacation, they're going away on a vacation, when that patient leaves her room, she grabs their file and makes notes in their file. So she will write things down that she needs to remember. So the next time they come in 6 months, she grabs their folder before greeting them in the reception. She reads her notes. The client will come in, the patient will come in, and she'll say, "Oh, hey, how are you? How was Disney?" And Disney was probably 4 months ago, and the patient is looking at her like, "Oh my God, how did you remember I went to Disney?" Now, she didn't remember, she wrote it down. When she wrote it down, she obviously remembered the conversation, but it was ways for her to remember. Little things like, I actually have had conversation with people, if they talk about their favorite wine, I will write it down in my folder, and that's the wine I get them for their housewarming gift when they close on the house. So, certain scotch, if someone's a scotch drinker, if they like certain things, an artist, a painting of the house, whatever that is, make notes on that, okay? So that's what you want to look at in that regard. It shows that you're interested in everything you're talking. Okay. Also, you want to prepare them up front for this entire process. You want to go through your entire overview to say, here's what we're going to be doing. Okay. Let me explain to you how I work. May I? Okay. They're not going to say, no, please don't. So when you walk into the house and you greet them and you start talking, you're going to say, hey, thank you so much for having me. Your home looks beautiful. I really appreciate your time. Before we begin, can I give you an idea of what we want to accomplish here and how I work? Okay, I'm not going to say no, come look at the house. Sure, okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, Mr. Seller, I just want to give you an idea of what to expect in our meeting today so that we make sure we cover everything and I answer all of your questions. Okay. First, to get started, I'm going to want to meet with you, maybe sit down in the kitchen if that's more comfortable for you. And I'd like to talk about your goals. I want to talk about what your plans are, where you're moving and why you're moving. Because ultimately, if all I do is sell your house and I haven't accomplished your goal, then I really haven't done my job, have I? So I want to get a sense of what your goals are. From there, of course, I'm going to want to see the house. What I've seen already looks absolutely beautiful, but I'm going to want you to walk through and I'm going to want you to show me through like I'm a buyer. I want you to point out things that a buyer would need to know so that I know how to explain it when I'm showing the house. Okay. Notice those points. I know how to explain it when I'm showing the house to buyers, but also I want to know what the reasons are that you fell in love with it. Chances are the buyer may fall in love with it for the same reason, and I want to point out those details. Maybe it's because of where the sun sets in the afternoon and what have you. So I want you to give me that feedback. Of course, then I want to spend some time and I want to talk about myself and my services, give you an idea of what I do to create the success stories for the sellers I represent. So I want to give you an idea of everything we're going to do to market the house and tell you a little bit more about myself, if that's okay. Okay, great. And then of course we'll look at pricing because we'll have to evaluate pricing, take a look at the market, get an idea of the value range for your property, not only the value range for your property, but also what you should expect to net in your pocket, because it's cash in pocket that really matters at the end of the day, doesn't it? Okay, great, I agree. Then of course we're going to make a mutual decision. We're going to decide whether or not we should be working together because, Mr. Seller, quite frankly, you're interviewing me for the job of representing you and selling your house. At the same time, I'm interviewing you. There may come a time in our conversations that I feel I can't accomplish your goals, and I may have to wish you well. Of course, I hope we're on the same page and we can work together, but we'll make a mutual decision as to whether or not I can accomplish your goals or you feel I'm the guy for the job. Would that be a fair statement? Great. Okay, great. Let's get started. Where's the kitchen? Okay, now, can any of you say that? Not verbatim. Can you say it? Anyone have any thoughts to share on that opening? Now, I'm still in their doorway, their foyer. Any thoughts? Tara. Tara, unmute.
Okay, am I on?
There you are. Yep.
Has anyone ever been insulted by, if you say to them, I'm also interviewing you?
Never. Never.
Okay.
If anything, I get the whole look of, wow, you know what? That makes sense.
Right.
That
Right.
makes sense. You can't want it more than they do. Now, you're not being cocky about it. You're not saying, oh, I mean, I want to see if I even want to work with you because, I mean,
Right.
from what I've learned so far, like, you could be tough to work with. It's not about that, because I'm saying I'm interviewing you to see if I can accomplish your goals. There may come a point in our conversation that I realize I can't accomplish your goals. And if that should happen, I want to be honest with you. Now, when I say accomplish your goals, it could be that they want $50,000 over asking price. Now, in this market, they may get it. It'll never appraise, but they may get it in an offer. So, there are a lot of variables on that. But, in a market where, it's all market specific, isn't it? In a market where the market is saturated with listings and they want to overprice it by 50,000, you need to walk away. I shared earlier on, I turned down my first listing in real estate because they wanted, I believe it was $70,000 over what I felt the market value range was. I had to say no. People thought I was crazy, but I knew then that I was crazier to take it. So ultimately it's about being polite. It's about showing that you're a business person and that you're dedicated to accomplishing goals. You're not just there begging for a listing, hoping to get a listing so you can put a sign in the lawn. Let me assure you, now, as much as we want every listing possible, don't get me wrong, okay? I get that. But if all you do is put a sign in the lawn and you never get a chance to put a sold sign on it, I'd rather see you spending your time with people who are serious than for people who just want your sign in the lawn. The neighbors will notice that a sold sign never went up. Okay? So it's not about, oh, I can get a sign in the neighborhood. It's no good if you never get a sold sign on it. If it expires, somebody gets it at a reduced price, they get a sold sign, it's a negative impact. Okay? So you're looking for success opportunities. You're not just looking for a chance to have a sign in the lawn. Make sense?
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Feel absolutely comfortable with that. Okay. So now the key with that opening, when I talk about that, now when you're giving that, call it an outline, you're giving an overview of what to expect in our meeting today or over the next couple of days. Ultimately, you're giving them an overview, but it also gives you something you can refer back to. Okay. Example. You sit down, you talk about their wants and needs analysis. You sit down, and you say, okay, great, let's look at the house. You're going through the house, and as you're looking at the house, they're pointing out the details, and they say to you, oh, yeah, hey, what do you think the house is worth? You can say to them, hey, remember when we started, I mentioned to you that, we're going to be reviewing the value of your home, and I promise you, we will. We will look at the value of your home. But I mentioned that of course we got to take a look at the house, want to talk about my marketing, and then we'll get into the pricing. So I promise you we'll review it, but that's our process here. You can say, remember when. If you never told them what to expect, you can't say remember when if you never had the conversation. So it allows you something to be able to refer back to. Make sense? Okay. Now, you've also got to decide, is your presentation going to be in a laptop format? Is it going to be in a printed version? We talked about that. Some people relate to printed versions. Some people relate to very, neat and organized, spiral bound printed. A printed version, will be a great visual. Okay, a lot of people respond well to that, and you can flip through it at your leisure. A laptop or technical, oriented presentation shows that you're tech savvy. It allows you, if you say, hey, I don't want to leave my presentation behind, allows you not to leave your presentation behind. Some sellers will share your presentation with another realtor that's coming in, so it allows you to determine whether or not you want them to have a presentation. Now, keep in mind, I'm talking presentation versus your seller resume package, okay? So, you've got to decide how you feel. Some people even do it on the listing on the laptop so that they can, when you're doing pricing, you can flip through photos of the similar properties when you're reviewing that. So ultimately do that and then leave a printed version behind. You decide. This has to be comfortable for you, but you need to pick a methodology and stay with it. The last thing you want to do is the day you get a seller lead is start figuring out how you're going to handle it. You need to have a methodology. You need to have a system in place. And when a listing call comes in, it just goes through your process. It just happens. So the resume package goes out, boom, have the pages pre-printed, put in the pages that are customized, get it over to their house, have the presentation on your laptop, print, put the comps in there, print it up. Whatever it is, have a system. Don't every time reinvent the wheel and figure out, well, I got a seller, how should I do this one? Because it's repetition that allows you to perfect your entire presentation. Make sense? Okay, so now you've got to look at your tips in speaking with people. Like we had talked about asking questions and things. You've got to make eye contact, especially today. We talked in our business meeting about tips of communication. We're wearing masks, gang. Wear your mask. Don't show up without a mask, okay? For your safety and theirs. But more importantly is you need to use nonverbal cues in your communication. You need to make eye contact. You need to raise your eyebrows here and there to show you're excited. Smile with your eyes. You need to use, hand gestures. Don't sit there with your arms crossed and feel like confrontational or standoffish. Ask a lot of questions, but you want to make sure that you're reassuring them with everything you do with those nonverbal cues. Make sense? You also want to come prepared with different things. You may need a tape measure to measure certain things. Now, room dimensions, I mean, back in the day, gang, we literally took a tape measure and measured those rooms and spent the time. That doesn't happen anymore. Floor plans, you schedule that to be done. The town hall is fairly accurate with square footage. You want to confirm that before you market it. You want to, if you're going to be taking any photos that time, you need to have a camera. I recommend professional photos, but there are some times that, sellers in a rush and they just need to get it on the market. So you get it started with a couple of photos and then you replace them after. Always have a listing agreement with you. Because if the day comes, even if you're planning a two-step and the seller says, you know what, Dean, listen, I appreciate your process, but I need to get this on the market today because I'm relocating. And what can we do? I'm going to jump into MLS right on their kitchen table and I'm going to pull out the listing paperwork and I'm going to list that sucker. Okay, if I want it. Now, the thing is, you need to be prepared. Don't ever say to somebody, oh, I don't have paperwork with me. Now, we've got it all in our computer. It's all in Instanet. It's all downloadable. It's all, can be populated, but always be prepared with paperwork. Okay. So always have a business card on you. Don't ever show up, especially to a listing interview with a business card. By the way, don't show up anywhere without a business card. Just note to self, always have a business card on you, and I will test you when I see you, by the way. So, always be prepared. You should never, whether you're going to a grocery store, Cumberland Farms for gas, whatever that is, always have a business card. Literally, I will walk to a grocery store from the car, realize that I don't have a business card on me, and go all the way back to the car to get a business card because there's a chance I'm going to see somebody that's going to ask me how the market is. And not only do I want to tell them how the market is and how unbelievable the market is, because it's always unbelievable, I also will have my card. Hey, do you mind if I give you my card? Okay, so don't ever show up without a card. All right, so digging further into the appointment. So when you're scheduling the appointment, little things, gang, bear with me because this should be common sense, but you need to confirm the appointment, okay? Call the day before or the morning of, okay? You can text if you've communicated with them via text, but a voice goes a long way. Call and confirm the appointment. It shows that you're dedicated to that interview. It shows that you're dedicated to that. Not only that, it also shows that you care about your schedule and their time, okay? So you need to be busy, even if you're not busy. Listen, Mr. Seller, I just wanted to call and confirm our appointment. I know that things come up, and I just wanted to make sure that you're still available and that you have an hour to an hour and a half available for us today. Yes? Okay, great. Look forward to seeing you today at 4. It's great. See you then. Whatever that looks like, make it comfortable, make it casual. Plan for the time. If they only plan 20 minutes for you and you're going to be there an hour and a half, they're going to be kicking you out and you're going to see them roll their eyes like, oh my God, I had no idea this was going to take this long. So be very mindful of that when you're communicating. Plan for the time. Remember, we talked also plan to make sure that the signatories are there. The authorized signers need to be there. You'll never get a listing if the person who needs to sign is not in the room, or both parties. If it's a married couple and both names are on the property, if they're both not there, you're never going to get a listing, and you can't put it in MLS if you've only listed a half of it. Okay, so ask for that. Oh, you know, will you and your spouse both be there tonight? Okay, great, super. See you then. Oh, you know, my husband had to work. Oh, okay. Should we reschedule? No. You know, we can still meet, and I'll just tell him everything you said. Okay. Now, there may be times that you are willing to do that. You can also try to say, hey, when does he have a night off? I'm glad to reschedule, but you also don't want to postpone. But there are times that I've seen that the spouse, you never got a chance to meet the spouse, and the spouse was talking to somebody else, and that somebody else got an appointment when they happened to both be available, so they got the listing because you only got half of a conversation in. So whenever you can, try and make sure that both parties are there if there's more than one party there. Okay, and it shows your motivation and interest in handling it as well. Okay, remember the key with this meeting, we talked about that whole the question of I may find that I can't accomplish your goal. Your mindset going into any listing, gang, is to decide if you want the listing. Don't be cocky. Okay, you're not going in there hoping to get it. If you go in there hoping to get it, it will be written all over your face. You're going in there to decide if you want it. Will it be priced well? Is my seller realistic? Are they motivated? Do they need to make this move, or at least are passionate about doing so? Do I feel I can work with them? Okay. You know, if you feel you want that listing, you're going to go in and take it. Now, again, it's not about being cocky. It's about being confident. They are hiring a professional to sell their home. They're interviewing professionals to find the one that's right in representing their home, who cares the most, quite frankly. Okay, the sad reality is that they judge us on our pricing, you know, and he who says the highest value for the house sometimes gets the listing. However, I've had many listings where the seller will say to me, you know what, Dean, we really appreciated our meeting, but you know, we got other higher prices from other realtors. And immediately I'll say, you know what, let's do this. I don't mind. Let's get together and we'll review those other pricing, and we'll see if we can make sense of it together. And if we need to start at a higher price because you're feeling like you don't want to leave money on the table, but you think I'm the guy for the job, then let's get together and discuss it and work together, because I really feel that I can accomplish your goals. Okay, but you want to impress them with that meeting. So if all you do is go in and give a price, never get a chance to talk about yourself, never ask them what their goals are, you know, then all you're doing is playing fake appraiser. All right, it's not what we're here to do. Okay, so you need to know that you are the best choice for them in everything you do. Okay, so it's an interview. Dress the part. Okay, show up prepared. Have a pen. Don't ask them to borrow a pen. All right. Be professionally dressed. Now, professional attire has changed over the years. Guys, you don't need a suit and tie. Ladies, you don't need a prom dress. It's not about that. Okay. It's about being professional. I personally would never show up in shorts. I probably would never show up in jeans, although some people do wear jeans well. Jeans with a blazer. Ladies can put on some baubles with some jeans and make it look really dressy. Not ripped jeans, not faded jeans, whatever that looks like. You know, business casual has become too casual. Don't show up in a hoodie. All right, it's not about that. It's about being professionally dressed. By the way, don't decide how you're going to dress based on the value of the home. How many times do I hear people say, oh yeah, well, you know, it's a manufactured home, so, you know, I'll probably wear jeans. You know, really? The person who owns that manufactured home could be a business executive. All right. So don't judge based on value. You don't have to wear a suit. And by the way, don't only show up at a closing with a suit either. If you've never worn a suit in front of those clients, don't you dare wear one to a closing. All right. Oh, they're making money. Now they're gonna wear a suit. They're gonna impress us because they're gonna get a check. Be yourself. Be confident in your attire, whatever that is. I haven't worn a tie in a long time other than to a business meeting, board of realtors thing, maybe our awards event. You know, generally speaking, I wear a blazer with an open shirt, you know, with slacks. You know, you've got to decide what your style is, be confident in it, but you know, you're here to impress them. By the way, also make sure your car is washed. If you're meeting them at their home, silly thing, have it clean inside and out. When you pull in the driveway, they are judging you. They're not judging you on the emblem on the hood on your car. They're judging you if you have great pride in who you are. Doesn't have to be a fancy car. I'm not an emblem guy. Yes, I like my cars. I've had many. We're an auto family since I was a kid. I used to build cars. But the thing is, like, I just like a nice car, but I'm not out to impress anybody with it. It's not about that. So it's not about the style of car, it's about having it clean. True story, when I got in real estate, you know, I had my Capri. It was this little gold car with rust along the bottom of it. I spray painted the rust just so that the rust didn't show, in my mind, because it showed. But, you know, I showed up, it was clean, it was presentable, and I was proud. None of that other stuff matters. Be proud, but at least show that you care, okay? Don't go mudding four-wheeling the night before and show up to the driveway, okay? So, so be organized in everything that you do, okay? Feel free to ask questions as we go along, all right? So, so the interview itself, all right? That's a little bit of preparation. Good stuff? Okay, so again, I welcome feedback as we go. I'm watching for raised hands. So your initial greeting, you're walking in the door. Now I gave you the overview of giving you that overview, and I'm going to review it again. But before you walk in, always compliment them somehow. Okay, if you're walking up the walk, you notice the landscaping, you notice something they did to the house, you notice something inside the decor. Make it up if you need to. Find a way to compliment them. That's how everybody wants to be greeted, okay? So be sincere about it, but find something to compliment them on, okay? And you're gonna set the expectation of the meeting. Now again, you need to get into the habit of being able to explain how you work, all right? Now again, I'm gonna do it just for effect because I want you to know that I know it, and I internalize it. Mr. Seller, before we begin, can I give you an idea of how I work? Great, thanks. Well, of course, we're going to get started, and I want to get a sense of your goals. I want to get a sense of what's motivating you to make this move, what's important to you in making this move. So, of course, I want to ask you questions, get a sense of that, because if all I do is sell your house, and I will, if all I do is sell your house and I haven't accomplished your goal, then I really haven't done my job, have I? Of course, from there, I need to take a look at the property. I'm going to ask you to show me through like a buyer and point out all the things that you know and love about the property and even reasons why you bought the property. After that, I'm going to want to tell you a little bit about myself and my services, give you a sense of who I am, how I market my properties, and how I achieve the level of success that I do for my clients. From there, of course, we're going to take a look at pricing because we all want to know what your property is worth. All sellers want to know. We're going to take a look at that. Not only are we going to look at the range of value that your home should be priced, we're going to determine a strategic listing price to maximize that range of value and also get a sense of cash in pocket, how much you're going to walk away with. From there, we're going to make a mutual decision as to whether or not we should be working together, because at some point, we need to each know that we can work well together. You need to know that I'm the guy for the job. I need to know that I accomplish your goal. Make sense? Great, let's get started. Where's the kitchen? Now, I rambled that quickly because I need you to know that I say it all the time. Okay, now, figure out your flow. I just suggest, first and foremost, you need to talk about wants and needs, period. Don't even look at their house. Now, I've had many sellers say, okay, hey, Dean, we're here. Why don't I show you the house? The kitchen's in the back. No, that's okay. I appreciate that. I look forward to seeing your house. But let's get started because I really want to ask you some questions before I look at the house. Stop them in the tracks. Don't just go. Some people have met me at the driveway. Hey, let me show you the yard. You know, okay, I may look at the yard before I go in, but I'm not going to look at the house until we talk. Okay, this is your show. Be comfortable with it. But I guarantee you, if you never get a chance to talk about yourself and your services before you give them the price, you never will, because that's really all they want. But you know what? The terms upon which I give somebody a market value for their house is that they listen to my spiel. That's the deal. I just say it nicer than that. You need to be confident in that. Okay, gang? All right. Again, watching for questions as we go along. I say that only because we look at that. Now, so first step, okay? The first step in meeting with the client and in those 5 steps is what? Somebody tell me. Oh, Pam, you had a question. Go ahead, Pam.
It was actually more of a comment than a question. I just like that you break up the meeting with them so that it's not just talking endlessly, you know, and then seeing the house and then talking endlessly. Like it just kind of breaks up the process so that they're probably going to stay engaged with you longer too.
Right. Right, because you have a plan. You're like, you know, this is a process for you. And it's okay to say the word interviewing. Mr. Seller, I'm interviewing for a job. I want to explain to you how I work. Is that okay? I'm not going to say no, you know, so they'll follow your lead. Thanks for that. Appreciate the
Thank you.
comment. Yeah. Who wants to share what the first step is of the 5 steps? Somebody knows it. I just gave it to you twice.
Telling them what to expect.
Close.
Build rapport. Isn't it build rapport?
Build rapport by doing what?
Asking questions.
Asking questions, your wants and needs analysis. Wants and needs analysis, that's your first step. So where's the kitchen? Great, let's go to the kitchen. By the way, the kitchen is the decision room in the house, gang. If you're sitting in the living room, sitting back in these comfy couches and you're leaning all the way back, that's very hard to have a direct conversation with them if you're all stretched out and trying to like put your feet somewhere, you know? So hold your notebook on your lap, all of that stuff. No, go in the kitchen. If they don't have a kitchen, there's a bigger problem, okay? So, and their kitchen table probably has a lot of stuff. It's okay. Oh, we'll just squeeze a little corner here. Just move some stuff out of the way, all right? Now, so wants and needs analysis. What we need to look at the what's important to them, okay? Sit down at the table, okay? You're going to ask questions. You're going to ask FORD questions. What's important to you in making this move, all of that stuff. But before you ask them any questions, somebody tell me what you need to discuss. Somebody tell me what you need to discuss before you go any further. Anyone? Mike. Mike?
Their wants and needs?
Before you ask them their wants and needs, what do you need to discuss? Under Rhode Island state law. Valerie. Unmute.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Agency.
Agency.
How they want to be represented.
Yes. So Tara, was that your comment?
It was.
All right, thanks. So representation, gang, by law. Now you have to be careful what questions you ask on the phone. Rhode Island state law says that before you discuss any confidential information with any party, you need to give them the option of representation. Now, we're not going to go into agency class here, but if anybody knows anything about how I feel about agency, it's one of my favorite topics, that and ethics, okay? When it comes down to agency, the consumer has the choice of representation. They can choose for you to work with them as a transaction facilitator or work for them as a designated client representative. It's their choice. You need to bring the disclosure form with you and discuss that with them so that they can decide. By law, you need to present it to them. They may not be willing to sign it. So if you know that form, there are 2 pages, front and back, or 2 pages. First page explains the forms of relationship that the seller has the option of. And on the back, the seller chooses, and I recommend the seller check the box, not you, because if you check the box, you're telling them what they should be, or you should be. If they check the box, they're selecting it. I know that sounds funny, but it's true, okay? So when we look at that, you need to explain to them the form, explain to them their options, and then dig in. It goes something like this. Mr. Seller, thanks so much. Your kitchen's beautiful, okay? Glad to be here. I'm looking forward to getting an understanding of what's important to you and make this move. Before I do that, Rhode Island law says, Maine law, Massachusetts law, Connecticut law, every law says that I need to discuss with you representation and your options as a consumer in representation. Well, Dean, what do you mean by that? Well, ultimately, in this transaction, you need to decide how you want me to represent you. I could be working with you as a facilitator in the transaction and not representing you, or I could be representing you and looking out for your needs and working for you exclusively and also be held to confidentiality on your behalf. Well, Dean, we're not ready to hire anybody yet. No, I understand that. And I'm not saying that that's the case. But the law says, even for the purposes of our conversation, that if you don't designate me as a representative in our conversation, it doesn't mean you've hired me. It's only for our conversations. If you don't designate me as a representative in our conversations, it means that I'm not held to confidentiality on your behalf. Anything we say, I can repeat to anyone else if you haven't designated me. It doesn't mean you're hiring me. It only holds me to that confidentiality. And the best example I can give you, Mr. Seller, is if you didn't choose me as a designated client representative for our conversations, okay, then ultimately, should you decide to work with somebody else, and I can't see why that would be the case, but should you decide to work with somebody else, everything we discussed is not in confidentiality. It's not confidential. So if I'm working with a buyer that happens to be interested in your home, then I can repeat anything that we discussed unless you've identified otherwise. Now, you're going to say it in different words. You need to have a sense of how you're going to say it. You're going to explain the form. You can say, so ultimately, I need you to sign this, identifying me if you choose to have me represent you. And the seller, in most cases, no, I'm not signing anything. Okay, no problem. Let me just make a note on here that identifies that I discussed you and you chose not to sign it, just so I have it for my file, because I always want to be within the state regulations and the state law. Most of the time, gang, you're going to have a seller look at you like you have three heads and you have no idea what you're talking about, or they have no idea what you're talking about, and many will even say to you, nobody's ever even said any of that to me before. We've met with 18 other realtors and nobody's mentioned that. Okay, that is the best opportunity for you to start taking this listing, because it can be as simple as statement and looking them square in the eye and say, you know what, I can't speak for other realtors how they conduct their business, but I know what's most important to me is that I stay within the state law, and I promise you I'll do that throughout our transaction. Okay, just stop talking and then resume. So ultimately, the point will be made very clear. You'd be amazed at how many people don't talk about agent. I know that many of you are saying, oh my God, I didn't talk about agency. I haven't done that. Most people just have the form in their listing package because they sign it when they actually do the listing, because they do all the paperwork together. The bottom line is the law says you need to discuss their options for representation, because if you never discussed that form, that means they never had the chance of confidentiality. If you don't get that listing and you repeat something to another party, let's say you have a buyer for it when it gets listed with somebody else, hey, this house came on the market, I was up for the listing, I know a lot, they're relocating, and he's got a job transfer and he's got to be there in 30 days, so I know they're super motivated and their mortgage balance is X and all of this stuff, and that first party finds out that you shared all that confidential information, you are at fault, because you did not give them the chance to hold you in confidence. So always be very, very mindful that they have that choice of representation. Okay, so again, agency class over, all right? Glad to expand on it as needed, but you need to have the conversation even if they refuse to sign the paper. Okay, any questions on that before I move forward? Okay, so then you're going to go into the wants and needs. You're going to ask them what's important to you in making this move. Have a list of questions that you want to ask. How soon do you need to be there? Who else is on the deed for the home? How many owners are there? Whatever it is, this is your chance to ask them questions, what we call WOPEN questions. Okay, WOPEN questions begin with W. Who, what, when, where, why? Why do you need to move so quickly? When do you need to be there? Okay, who, what, when, where, why, and how? How begins with a W, it's just spelled backwards. Okay, so ultimately, if you ask all of these questions in your mind, you're going to be able to just remember it. You can have a basic conversation. You can have a handwritten list of questions for yourself and just write it in on the same sheet. Again, shows you're organized. Okay, find a way to do it. You could have just a folder that opens up where your questions are on one side and your note page is on the other. Whatever works for you. The key is you want to be finding out as much as you can about this move, because again, if all you do is sell their house and you haven't accomplished their goals, then you haven't done your job. And that's redundant because it's a direct point. You'd be amazed at how many buyers I've worked with that had their homes listed with somebody else because they called on one of my listings and their agent never asked them if they need to buy a house. They just listed their house. Okay, so you'd be amazed at how many realtors just go in and get the listing. They don't take the time to find out what the opportunity is. I've actually received referral fees for other people's sellers because I got them in touch with somebody in another state to help them buy in another state because their realtor never asked them where they were moving to and never got them in touch with another realtor in another state to get a referral fee. Yes, it's real. Ask questions. There are so many opportunities you don't even know about. And when people know that you care, they're going to refer you to everyone in creation. Okay? Questions on any of that? Thoughts? None. You all got it down. Can you all do that? Okay. Anybody willing to tell me what the outline of the introduction is for the 5 things that we're going to do? Anybody willing to share with me? Pretend I'm your seller. Role play. Chicken. Okay. So practice that. Okay. Now, so from there, I mean, ultimately, the questions to ask based on everything that we asked. So from there, we're going to talk about the property. So after you ask all of the questions, you're going to say, Mr. Seller, thank you so much. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, thank you so much for sharing those details with me. I think I have a clear understanding of what your goals are in making this move, and I really needed to understand that. So as we discussed when I first arrived, the next step is to take a look at your home. I'm looking forward to seeing your home. So why don't we take a look at your home? Do me a favor, treat me like a buyer. If you were selling the house and you were showing it to me, treat me like a buyer. Point out all the things that I need to know, the things that you've improved, things that you've done since the time that you've been here, things that even may still need to be done. Everyone's home has a little bit of deferred maintenance because we're all busy. So point out things that I need to know as well, because when the time comes that I'm showing your property, I'm going to want to know that. I'm also going to want to know what you like most about the property, because I find that most people buy homes for the same reason that the seller originally bought it. So point out any details that you really love about the home so that I can show and I can sell it the same way you can. Great. Let's get started. Now, the thing is, you're going to be walking through the home. Have your notebook. Ask questions. Take notes. It shows that you care. By the way, gang, calling it what it is. They're going to tell you things that that won't even matter in the showing of their home. You're still going to write it down. Okay? Still write it down. When we moved in, we installed the paneling in this room. We just really loved the sheen on this paneling when we first did it. Great sheen on the paneling. Okay, in your mind, you're thinking, yep, buyer's going to rip that down first day they move in. But write it down. I know it sounds silly. Show them that you care. A lot of it, may not matter. Again, this is another time when the dog runs underfoot or the cat runs underfoot, you write down the cat's name. Okay, so have a flashlight. Could be just a mini flashlight on your keychain or what have you. Okay, if you go into a boiler room or the furnace room and they're showing you, okay, and here's the heating system and what have you, you don't have to be an HVAC engineer to look at it. But don't say, oh yeah, no, I'm not a heating specialist. The inspector will look at that. Look at it. You don't even know what you're looking at. It doesn't matter. Just look at it. Okay, great. You'll get a sense of its age. You'll get a sense if it's rusted or corroded. You'll get a sense if it's shiny and new. I had a client that actually polished their heating system. They were that high C that they waxed their heating system because they didn't want it to be dusty because it was in the laundry room and they were very particular. If I didn't look at that person's heating system, I never would have gotten the listing. I'd simply point like, that's the cleanest heating system I've ever seen. Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, they were so excited. I noticed. So look at things like that. Now, I'm not saying you have to go look up in the attic, bring a ladder, all of that stuff. But if you're looking around the room, get a sense of it. You know, as a listing agent, when somebody asks you where the oil tank is, there's a chance you should know. Okay, so you know, get a sense of that. Make diligent notes. Understand. Also, point out things. Now, you need to point out positive details to your sellers. You need to say, oh, you know, that's great. This is such a nice sized room. This kitchen is super functional. You know, whatever that looks like, point out the positives. You sometimes have to delicately point out the negatives too. You know, if they have a window with a broken pane of glass, you need to mention it. Not everybody has a broken pane of glass in their house. So don't overlook it and say, oh, make a note, oh, broken window. You know, it can be as simple as, oh, I noticed there's a crack in that window. Is that something you were planning to fix? Oh, should I? Well, I would. You know, Mr. Seller, we're trying to get the highest value out of your property that we can. Keep in mind that buyers are going to come through with a mental cash register. Everything that they see that needs repair, they're going to be deducting from your list price. So your offers will tend to be lower if there are more little details that need to be done. A pane of glass might be $20, but a buyer is going to deduct $100. Okay, so you know, if your schedule allows, I would take care of these little things. By the way, I also have contractors who can do little odd jobs like this. Maybe do some things before we list it. If you need some help, I can connect you with somebody. Okay, but talk about that. Also, staging advice. Many sellers want some staging advice. Now, I was always a big fan of sharing staging advice. All right, you know, like when you're walking through, you know, oh, it'd be great if we open this up. Some people just have too much stuff. They've just accumulated things. You know, I've accumulated things too, but my house isn't on the market. I have that right. When you're putting it on the market, it changes. So you know, you want to be able to give some staging advice. Don't give too much staging advice, okay? Because ultimately, they may think the opposite of what you're trying to do. They may think you don't like the home. All right, we always talk in stories, true stories. Had a listing interview, referral from a past customer. It was one of those come list me's. It was like, you know what, hey Dean, so-and-so referred you. You know, we want to list our house with you. Can you come through? Hey Dean, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. My friend told me what a great job you did with staging their house. And you know, I'd really like, as we go through the house, if you could point anything out that you feel I need to do, you know, I want to make sure that we stage it properly. So we went through the house, and in every room needed something. Every room needed something. It was big, bulky furniture for a very cozy house. In real estate, we say cozy. It's not a small house, it's cozy. So you know, it just, things needed to be thinned out. The hallway was the brightest pink. It was as pink as my shirt. Okay, so I would go through and I'd say, you know, that the pink, not everybody's going to be drawn to pink. That's my polite way of saying, what were you thinking? Not everybody's going to be drawn to pink. It'd be worth doing this. In this room, you need to take, you know, these items, you know, what every room we went through. 2 weeks later, the house was listed with a co-broke. So I called the seller. Of course, you can always call to ask for feedback and wish them well. You can't solicit. I called the seller. You know, I saw your house come on the market. I always like to get some feedback when I don't get a listing, and I was just wondering if you could share with me so I can learn from every experience. And she said, yeah, Dean, you know, you were great, but honestly, I felt like you didn't like my house at all. Because every room we went into, you had a recommendation of something, and I just didn't feel like you liked it. And I said, you know, honestly, you asked me to help you with staging advice, which, by the way, I noticed in your pictures, you did a lot of the things that I recommended. So good for you. But you asked me to do that. You know, yeah, I just got the sense you didn't like it. Okay. So I've learned never to do that up front again. Okay. Thoughts on that? Any other thoughts? Okay. So now, Sharon. Unmute.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you.
Sure.
I have to ask a question.
So I do have a question. So I have I went to see a house and it was out of a whim type of thing. We got a call. So my husband, Chris, got a call from somebody. And so we went in and I did a quick market analysis through our PR. And the guy is a perfectionist and he actually built the home.
Yep.
Right. So he's a carpenter and all this and that. I wasn't fully prepared, with all of the agency information, discussions and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it was just something that that he wanted to get some information, right? And he's definitely going to plan on listing the home, but, give him 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because he wants to make sure the house is totally perfection. He's redoing windows. He polyurethane the whole kitchen. I haven't heard from him. Now, the plan is to call him, this week, but how do you handle that? It's obvious I've already given him information and, it's back in my mind, I'm thinking that he's going to FISBO, with his buddy was our painter, if this is what happens. But how do you handle those types of things? Like, you want to build a rapport. And so it's like in doing that rapport, and giving them the information that they want, I feel like I've just lost the opportunity.
Well, no, actually, I think you gained the opportunity. So let's shift that line of thinking, now what you have to focus on is follow through, right? So you provided information, you talked about value, right? You gave them a value range for the property. Keep unmuted so I can.
Yeah, yes, I did. Yes.
Okay. So ultimately you went in, you may not have done it exactly like I'm saying. And by the way, there are times I didn't either. So, let's call it what it is. But if you have a regulation in your mind, you will follow it. But sometimes we go a little bit off script. It's just what we do. So it may not have been exactly like this, but you did talk about value range. You talked a little bit about yourself, or at least you got a sense of you when you were in his home. So really it's about follow through. He needed a little bit of time to get it ready. Keep in mind, you don't have to call just when he's ready to list. You can call just to call. So it's like, hey, this is Sharon. I just wanted to check in. Been a little while since we spoke, and I don't know if you're ready yet, but more so than anything, I thought I'd just touch base with you because I was looking at homes in your area, and a new listing came up and it sold really quickly. And it's amazing what's happening in the market. And it just made me think of you, and I just thought I'd check in, make sure you know the area, what's going on in the market, what the stats are. We just had our company business meeting last week, and I just wanted to share with you, the time on market is still 61 days on the market, but there's under 3 months, worth of properties on the market. So it's just, you make something up, just call. Okay. It's like, you're not going to sell them on that call. So don't call them to sell them. So, you're just, how you making out with polyurethane? I was in Home Depot the other day. I saw cans of polyurethane. It made me think of you and everything you wanted to do in the kitchen. And I just thought, I wonder how he's making out with that. How's it going? It's been so warm. Have you even been able to do polyurethane? Or sometimes it's too warm to do that. Just thought of you. So, right now it's about building rapport. Make something up. I was driving by the area the other day. I was working with some clients, and I was driving by the area and I thought of you. I didn't go by the house because I was on the next neighborhood over, but you just came to mind. I just thought I'd check in. I want to keep in touch. Looking forward to the opportunity to working with you, and I just wanted to keep in touch, see if you need anything in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Dean.
You don't need something to say. Don't think like this, you're not going to pull something out of your magic hat or anything. People want to work with people who are diligent. If he spoke with other realtors he hasn't heard from, he's going to remember you because he heard from you. It's all good. And then you can ask him, when do you think you'll be ready? And now if he's already decided to go with another realtor, at some point he'll be honest with you. Hey, Sharon, I really appreciate your follow through, but I got to be honest with you. My brother's a realtor. I was just trying to get an idea of pricing from other realtors out there. You know what I mean? You never know. Okay. Dino.
Yes. Any advice on a seller who doesn't want to clean almost anything, or that they say they will, and then you show up and, hey, all those things you were going to do, I see you didn't get around to them. Yeah,
Yeah, I see your cat is still missing the litter box. Yeah, right.
yeah.
Yeah. That one's super delicate, because, everybody has a different level of clean, and you have to be super careful. So you need to put it along the lines of discerning buyers. Now, do you have the house on the market, Dean?
Yes.
Okay. Have you shown the property?
Yes.
Okay. Blame it on somebody else. Hey, I just want to let you know, we were showing the property and, unfortunately it doesn't meet their needs. I do think it's important though that I mentioned a little bit of feedback that they mentioned when we were in the house. They did notice that, that there are some things out of sorts, and we talked about it, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I think let's agree every bit of feedback matters, and I just think that if this buyer is mentioning it and saying it, think of all the buyers that are noticing it and not, or noticing it and saying it. Think of the buyers that are coming in that aren't saying it. So I just wanted to mention, they weren't rude about it, but they did mention that, that was part of their thought process in looking at your home. Do you think you might have time to work on that? I know you've been busy.
Thank you.
So even if they didn't mention it, make it up. Don't give them the names, but find a way, now if you don't have that chance and you haven't sold the house, a delicate way to be to say, I know you're busy, everybody's busy. And, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. If you have the time to do some of those details that we mentioned, believe me, Mr. Seller, my house is out of sorts. It is, I don't practice what I preach here, but my house isn't on the market. Yours is. I do have some recommendations for cleaning people. Maybe it's worth an investment if you're too busy that we have somebody come in and do those odds and ends. Okay. Now, my house sometimes is out of sorts, but it's never dirty. If you know me at all, it's probably never dirty. But I need to empathize. I need to relate. My house is never perfect. If you showed up at my house, it'd probably be perfect if I'm expecting you to show up. If you showed up unexpected, it's probably out of sorts, but I'm going to empathize and make sure that there's a theory of relativity there. But again, my house isn't on the market. It doesn't have to be perfect. You've chosen to be on the market. It does. The other thing you could do is an analogy, I'm sure you're really busy, but you know what? I just want to make sure you know how buyers are thinking. Buyers are thinking they want everything these days because prices are up. So they expect the world, and I kind of equate it to this, Mr. Seller. I don't know if you've ever sold a car in your life, but, I've sold many cars, because I like change. And the one thing that I do know for sure is that my car has never been cleaner when I put it on the market. I put an ad in the paper for my car. That car is polished better than it's ever been. It's vacuumed cleaner than it's ever been. I just go to town on it. And quite frankly, I find that I always say to myself, why am I selling this car? It looks so good. I find that most of my sellers, their house looks better than it ever has. And they actually wonder why they're actually selling it, because they feel all renewed. That's what buyers are looking for. So just different ways to say it. It's just about, again, trying to relate. Make sense? Okay, cool. Nicole.
Yeah, quick question. So
Sure.
I have a good friend that has a big house that he's thinking about selling. I just can't convince him to put it on the market. He has a painting in about every wall, every inch of every wall. He has painting, he has object, he collects all sorts of stuff. It is all beautiful, but it seems like, it is an overwhelming task to kind of, clean this up. And basically you tell me, if you have a seller, then, we'll sign the papers and I'll sell it. But I don't want to go to the effort of kind of at work. I don't have time. I really want to sell it, but just like that. So, and for now, even if the market is, really interesting, it would sell like that. It's a beautiful house, but I just can't convince him to put it on the market because going to the effort of cleaning this all up, not cleaning, but just like kind of like lighting up a little bit the stuff, right?
Yep. Well, so, let's look at it from two different angles. First of all, you can't want it more than he does.
That's
Okay?
true.
It's not up to you to convince him to put it on the market. He needs to want to put it on the market. And when the day comes that he wants to put it on the market, I assure you, he will be listing it. Okay, so maybe it's about where he's going and what his goals are, and helping him find something that actually motivates him to act.
Yeah.
But if he just doesn't feel like doing the things necessary, and then he's not ready. He's what we'll call your B seller rather than your A seller. You need to focus on your A sellers that are actually ready and want to do this. Your B seller will come around, but the key is to keep in touch with them and make sure you're doing the things that allow you to be fresh in his mind. If he's out actively looking, make sure he's set up on a search where your name comes up with any listing that he sees. When he sees the house, he's going to call and say, Nicole, I saw this listing. Can we get in there? Okay, great. Then you're showing the house. How are you making out with getting your house ready? Oh yeah, I haven't done anything. Okay, what can I do to help? I have friends who have a house that has a lot of art. You wouldn't even know that there are walls behind the art because there's so much of it. It's absolutely breathtaking.
Yes.
But it's overwhelming.
Mhm.
And buyers will be overwhelmed, but you can't change somebody's their lives just because the house is on the market. Because the key is, if they took all of that off the walls, where are they going to put it in the meantime? You're not going to put quality art in the basement for showings or in the garage. So you may need to just list it, and look
Just
around
like
it. If it's dirty, sometimes art like that is just never dusted, so, then you might want to have somebody come in, recommend a cleaning company, what have you. But sometimes you just have to show it that way. I mean, you can't change that. But if he's just not ready,
Yes.
then you'll never convince him to list because he's not ready. So I would focus on trying to find a way to help him get ready, and that's by helping him find the reason why he wants to be. Make sense? Okay, cool, thanks. So then we're going to go into talking about you, because guys, if you're doing this as a two-step, okay, you need to make sure that you never leave their house without talking about yourself. You gave them plenty of time to talk about themselves. You did a wants and needs analysis. You toured the property, gave them a chance to talk. Now it's all about you. Now here's the thing. We're not going to spend a ton of time on this topic, okay? Because we hit on it, watch the recording. If, when we looked at the resume package, we talked about all of the things that are in your resume package, okay? You're just going to now explain it to them yourself. This is the part where you're talking about you and your service. You're going to talk about, you would have put testimonials in your resume. You would talk about yourself with maybe your sales record in the area, which may have been in your resume. And it could be as simple as, Mr. Seller, thank you for showing me the house. Remember when we discussed, now I want to just give you an idea of myself and my services and how I accomplish the goals of my sellers. So let me give you an idea of how I work. Okay. So, and you could talk about your stats in the area. Talk about we always say, talk about the power of we. If you don't have stats, we have stats. So what has the company done in that neighborhood? What has the company done in that town? What has the company done in the state? Okay. You all are part of a company that is the top selling MLS registered company in the state of Rhode Island. So if you're in the Rhode Island area, use that to your benefit. You're also part of a company that has over 270 associates, okay? 290 with our main franchise as part of our family. So between Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Maine, we're a family of 290. So talk about the power of we. We work together as a professional family in accomplishing the goals of our client. So what that means to you, Mr. Seller, because they want to know what it means to them. What that means to you, Mr. Seller, is that when I list your property, I'm going to be sharing it with all of my colleagues. And there's a chance that one of my colleagues may be working with the buyer for your home. So we will be expanding your property throughout our company to ensure that we have the best exposure possible. Of course, in addition to that, we'll be exposing it throughout the state and throughout the region in order to make sure that your home is properly exposed. Our Home Smart technology expands your property to over 1,000 websites only within the first 48 hours of your listing. So, we will be able to track that activity as well. So talk about the power of we if you don't have the stats yourself. Talk about the way you communicate with them. Clients want to know how you communicate. By the way, the key to find out how they'd like to be communicated with is to ask, Mr. Seller, I find that communication is critical to most consumers. And ultimately, I want to know what's important to you in communicating. How would you like me to communicate with you? Would you prefer that we schedule a regular day to speak? Would you prefer I do text? Would you prefer I do emails? How would you like me to communicate with you? Because ultimately, I want to make sure that this experience for you is the best possible. Now, when you say that, they may have a past bad relationship with a former realtor listing where they got no communication whatsoever. So try and overcome objections without actually knowing what the objections are. It's as simple as saying, here's how I communicate. They're going to be relieved deep down inside. Some of them will actually say something out loud and say, oh, thank God, because the last clown never even called, couldn't even get any feedback. Okay, so talk about that. Share your value proposition. What is it that's unique about you that you do in selling your home? Everybody's available 24/7, even though we shouldn't be. Everybody works on the weekends. You can call me anytime. Everybody's offering that, you know? So what is it that you bring unique to the table? Maybe it's past experience in another field. It doesn't have to be real estate experience. It could be customer service relation. You could have been in the medical industry and understand needs on a different level. Whatever that is, could be a business, experience. Whatever that is, talk about what you bring to the table. What makes you unique that helps you stand apart above the rest, okay? Talk about the marketing, talk about where you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do a virtual tour, if you're gonna do a floor plan online, anything like that. Bring samples of things that you've done. Bring your website. Everyone has a website. It's free. HomeSmart offers it to you. All you need is a domain name pointed to the website. It's right in your technology. If you have not done that and you don't have your photo in your website, do so. It's there for you. Click, 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 and your website's up and running. We feed the information right into it for you. So, so take advantage of that. Pull up your website. It's already IDX compatible. Buyers can go in and do searches. Show a seller the things. Customize it. It's all customizable. You could put videos on it to promote yourself, or let's say you have a new construction subdivision you're representing, you can represent that. Whatever it is, it's all very interactive. This is your chance to talk about you. You've given them chance to talk about themselves. Okay, so so again, go through almost like in a mental capacity, go through the presentation, the resume package you created for them, and just review. Heck, if they have it on the counter, you can say, hey, I see you saw my resume package. I hope you got a chance to look at it. Do you mind if I hit on some of the finer points in there? Because I want to make sure that I answer any questions you might have in that regard. In your mind, you just wanted to make sure they saw it. Okay? 9 times out of 10, when I showed up for a seller interview, maybe 8 times out of 10, just so it's not cliche, the seller had my resume package on the table, sometimes with the open envelope under it, stacked on the table, almost like it was a homework assignment that they had to be prepared and had it available. Like they were trying to show me that they read it. It was perfect. It was like buying science. Okay, so this is your chance to talk about you and your services. And it's okay to say things like, listen, I'm not here to brag. I just want to make sure that you know about me and the level of my success. Ultimately, Mr. Seller, it doesn't matter how great I am, how many homes I've sold, or how many I sell on a regular basis. What matters is what's in it for you. Can we agree with that? What matters is what am I going to do for you as a seller in accomplishing your goals. All of this doesn't matter compared to that, but I think it's part of you getting a sense of what I am. You're just not a number. They always say you need something done, you hire the busiest person. Some people say, oh, he might be too busy. Let me assure you, I'm not too busy. This is what I do for a living. I'm committed to it. Okay. Now, by the way, gang, even if you happen to have another job, I always say real estate is your career. You may have another job, but real estate's your career. It's okay to have something else, but talk about this like it's your career. I guarantee you sometimes work more hours in real estate having another job than some realtors do that don't have another job. Okay. So what is part-time anyway? All right. Don't ever let that influence. Now, if they happen to ask you, do you have another job? You know, or they already know that because you know them. Yeah, you know, I do happen to have another job, but let me assure you, I have everything in place so that when the time comes that I'm not available to cover an appointment, I have a team partner at the office that I work with that ensures that my properties get shown. So, you know, regardless of my schedule, everything is absolutely covered. And here's how I do that. Okay, team up with somebody. We have so many people in this company that are more than willing to team up. You don't have to be a team. You can team up and just say, you know, hey, if I happen to be working, would you cover the showings for me? Great. So now you can actually say, hey, I have a servicing agent, somebody that works with me, you know, that handles my showings. You know, it's like, it over expresses what it is, but use it, power of we. Okay. Questions? Want to be mindful of everyone's time. Any questions at all? Any thoughts? Anybody like what you hear? Anybody using something similar? Anybody use something that I didn't mention that works really well for you that we can all benefit from? Anyone? Mike.
Dean, getting back to, well, first of all, thank you so much for doing this. It's been great. I missed last week's, but I will see it on the web.
Great.
But I did, going back to the email search that I asked her in the beginning.
Yeah.
I did find out that my client needs to send an email to optin.ris@matrixsomething.com. So there is a criteria for them to take care of.
Okay. So thank you. So they kind of blocked themselves out rather than
They must have
unsubscribed.
put it as spam or junk or inadvertently hit the wrong button, but I
Thank
will
you.
get them back in.
Mike, do me a favor, send that to me in an email because we'll add that to our FAQs and our RSA.
Oh, okay, sure.
Great, thanks. Thanks for the follow through on that. I won't confuse it with you not paying attention in this session. All right, guys, there being no other questions, we appreciate you guys being here. You know, looking forward to next week's session as we continue to progress through our series. Watch for that. Again, I appreciate your time. So I'm always glad to share. And if there's something we didn't cover and you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out. So see you all soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, see ya.
Thanks, Dean.
You're welcome.